Hi there, my name's Becky Hirst and I'm a community engagement specialist, and I work a lot with local councils and state government and other organisations to help them involve people, groups and communities in their decision making and problem solving processes. I'm often seen out and about facilitating face-to-face meetings, very much about getting people together in a room to find a solution or help provide some input into decision making. But since coronavirus has taken over the world, we've all been sent into a state of not only shock, but into a world of video conferencing. The world and his or her dog are suddenly on video conferences, communicating with each other for meetings, communicating with family, catching up with friends. Now, this is absolutely fantastic. It's a brilliant way for us all to keep connected and keep communicating in this time of absolutely awful crisis around the world. But if we're going to do this well, and particularly if we're going to use video conferencing in our professional lives, I've prepared some etiquette tips for how you can get the best out of your online video conversations with each other. So first up, tip number one, if you're on a video conference, make sure you're on mute when you're not speaking, and don't forget to take yourself off mute when you do speak. The reason we want you to use mute when you're video conferencing is because people don't want to hear your background noise. And if you've got 20 people on a call and there's something very subtle going on in the background for everybody, it ends up with that really fuzzy sound. So if you make sure you're on mute during the call, apart from when you're speaking, that's just going to help the call be so much more focused for everybody. Etiquette tip number two is about testing your equipment. So most video conferencing software allows you to do this before you go live onto the call. You need to check your microphone is working, you need to check your camera, and you need to check the position of your camera, which we'll come on to. Becky's etiquette tip number three is all about angles. So this is something most people have commented on to me since I've released these etiquette tips. What we don't want to be seeing, let me give you an example here, is up your nose at some kind of funny angle. We equally don't want to be seeing you in the dark. We want to be able to see your face clearly. We want you to have space around you. We want you to be able to talk to us like you would talk to us in face-to-face. So really have a test with your camera and play around with the angles. What you can also find is as you look around the room, I'm really lucky because I've got quite a nicely daylight lit office, but if you have lots of shadow on your face or it's really dark, it makes people it's hard to see you. And that's really not the purpose of video conferencing at all. So check your angles. The same goes for peeping down the rabbit hole. Somebody said they've noticed sometimes people are kind of really close in like this. We don't want to be really close in like that. We just want to be human to human still. You want to be able to see me nicely. I'm looking directly at you. That makes a brilliant video call. Dress appropriately as well. Now this is an interesting one. If you're Skyping your family or friends, or you're hooking up with people for after work drinks or whatever you do, that's fine. You can wear whatever you want. And of course you can wear whatever you want anytime. But if you're doing a video conference in a professional setting, you need to be presenting yourself in a way that is professional. So you wouldn't think that 20 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago, I was actually in the garden. I have in fact got my trainers and my jeans on, but I've smartened myself up a little bit because I'm going to be on camera. So I'm not suggesting you have to slip a jacket on, you don't have to be super smart, but dress as you would dress to meet these people face to face. You need to maintain that level of professionalism as you do your video conferencing. My fourth tip for video conferencing etiquette is around slowing it down. Now, when you've got a group of, say, 10 people on a video call and you're trying to make a decision, you're going to need to give everybody a chance to speak, but you're also going to need to allow for silence. Now, trust me, this is awkward for me. It's an awkward feeling, but you need to pause. Allowing that pause to happen for all of you, and you don't need to talk about this, you just need to, as you're talking, as you're facilitating a meeting, allow the time to pause. This gives people the opportunity to say something if they need to. My fifth etiquette tip is around nominating somebody to be in charge of the meeting. So just as you would in a face-to-face meeting, if it's a good meeting, you're going to have a chairperson, or you're going to have a facilitator or a host, somebody who is taking charge of that call, who's going to keep an eye on whatever it is you're meant to be talking about, that you're sticking to the agenda, is going to keep you to time, and really importantly is going to ensure everybody has a chance to contribute to the conversation. My sixth tip for good video conferencing etiquette is around developing some rules of engagement. So this might be something that you work up at the beginning of a call, but I suggest you don't, because once you're on that call, you need to be getting straight to business. But think about before you go into the video conference, maybe send around with the agenda some tips for engagement, some rules of engagement. This might be things like a simple reminder for people to be on mute and to remove the mute when they want to speak. It might be around how to attract the facilitator's attention. It might be a simple putting up your hand, might be a typing something in the chat function. I know that Zoom has a function where you can raise your hand if you want to. So just establishing those group norms will help you have a really good conversation. My seventh etiquette tip for video conferencing is around having a really clear meeting purpose. Now this should be the same whether it's face-to-face or online. You need to know why you're meeting. You need to know what it's about. You need to know what you want to achieve out of that meeting. I should also say here, ask yourself, is video conferencing absolutely necessary? It can be fairly intensive on your bandwidth. And at this point in time, everybody around the world is using video to communicate. And you might find that some of the functions are missing, or it's taking a while for video conferencing to just deal with the volume of people it's got. So is a video call absolutely necessary? Whatever happened to the good old teleconference? Sometimes you can get a message by simply sharing some emails or setting up a chat group via WhatsApp or Facebook. Just think about it before you do. And finally, etiquette tip number 8, try to minimize disturbances. So actually I'm in my office now and I've just realized I haven't locked the door. So a DHL driver could walk in at any point in time and interrupt me. My dogs are outside, they're all occupied. There's nothing wrong with having my dog in the background, as long as I know it's not going to start barking and doing all sorts whilst I'm in the middle of a very important video conference. So just ensure you've got some things in place. For the delivery driver, I'd lock the door. I'd put a note on it saying, I'm on a really important video call, can you leave any parcels wherever I need to do? For the dogs, I'd probably lock them away somewhere temporarily with their food and water, of course. Or give them a toy to play with whilst I'm on my video call. Also be really conscious here if anybody's behind you. There's been some funny blooper videos circulating on social media this week of people's husbands in the background, people walking past that aren't aware that you're on a work call, anything like that. Just make sure your background is set up quite nicely. Now this is also something to think about with you've got your angles, your lighting, the way you look, what's happening in your background. You're suddenly giving people an insight, if you're working from home, into your environment, and it's very important that you ensure that looks professional if it needs to. I hope you've enjoyed these video conferencing tips. Please feel free to send me more. I love sharing this kind of thing, and all the best with your video conferencing. It's so important now more than ever that we stay connected.